very tan.
That's it.
Yeah.
Insurance guy.
Yeah, I didn't feel like this one. You grab stuff to head it off. I take vitamin C every day, and I take vitamin C tablet, try to.
And I swear by that Zycam stuff.
Is it some sort of zinc something or other?
Right.
Yeah, my dad used that too. What do you got there, Cletus? Give me that red.
You know, you might as well leave 50 left.
Yeah, that'll help my throat, yeah.
Sugar-free.
Thank you, Cletus.
Yeah.
All right.
Sugar-free too.
Yeah. Nick, you want one?
Don't give any of that
I'm not
depressed.
No, I go get one of those later.
Yeah.
Tastes disturbingly like a sucress.
5:30 toward my watch.
132.
Billy Gordon, John?
Thank you, Cletus. The first item on the agenda, every year I do, I think I passed that down. A brief report on zoning department activities during the previous year. And I'm not going to go over anything that if you want to read it, fine. If you want to throw it away, that's fine too. It's just a brief synopsis of some of the major things that we did this year or last year. So I do one every year. So the last couple of pages are a trend that show permits issued and evaluation and stuff like that. So you can get an idea of how things are going. So that's the only reason I brought that in tonight, just so you can have something else to make your files thicker. So unless you have any questions on that, I was just going to hand it out. Okay, item number 2. Eddie Hunt last year submitted a grant to the Ohio Department of Natural Resources in an attempt to secure funding to replace some worn out playground material at Keller Park. And he received notification a few weeks ago that the grant was approved. I think the grants were about $23,000, something like that. And that's 75% of the approximate cost of the project. The city will have to provide a 25% match. So that was good news. That was the first grant of the year that we received. And Eddie did the whole thing, so kudos to Eddie. I'm very proud of him. So I just wanted to bring that up. And Bob Geller might have a little more to say about it when he has his Parks Department meeting in a few weeks.
I want to say that maybe, yeah, I want to say
It's
a couple years ago or so, remember we had like an insurance audit or something like that that was done? And one of the recommendations on there was the wooden playground equipment at Geller Park, trying to replace some of that. And so what we did was we surveyed students at Garfield Elementary. It wasn't this school year. It may have been the previous school year, or the one before that. I can't remember. When did Eddie originally do that? Because remember we were trying to get it last year and we didn't get it.
Yeah, I think he might have done it early last year. At 4 last year to get it last year.
Yeah.
But they initially turned it down, and then they reevaluated everything and then approved it.
Yeah. Because I think we had one of the things that could get you some points in the grant was to if you actually had it budgeted in your budget.
That's right.
And when we passed the 2012 budget, we did that.
It was in there. Yes. Yeah. Yes.
So anyway, surveyed the kids at Garfield at the time to ask them, what would you like to see, come there? So basically, we ran with that feedback to get the equipment and then submitted for the grant. And I believe our idea was the grant money would cover X. We have that con fund for Geller Park that could cover that, excuse me, the difference. We could get the that old playground equipment out. I believe there were also a change or two being made so that it would be a little more ADA compliant. And so it was kind of a surprise that we got that grant, because it's not as though we submitted a different grant application. They didn't do it last year, and so this year they just took those applications and said, something like that.
Well, there were 3 from Licking County, and they told us they could only give 1. Wasn't that the case?
Maybe you're right.
And we were told, well, we just weren't the one.
Yeah.
But I don't know if they ever identified who got it.
I never learned who it was. But anyway, so hopefully we'll be able to then utilize that and get that old couple pieces of equipment out of there at Geller Park and get it replaced with something new that the kids at Garfield helped to select.
And probably in the next few months, Bob Geller will be approaching you with a legislative request for the city's match.
So the city's match was 5%?
25%. So it's probably going to be, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, somewhere in that vicinity.
Yeah, something like that.
And I believe this is something that's going to be installed by a contractor. Our own parks people won't do it.
Yes, that's correct.
And I think that's done more for safety purposes,
Correct.
liability.
Yep.
How much is in the bond fund? Just out of curiosity.
I don't know. I haven't looked at that fund balance in a while.
Whoever's done a recent fund report, it'll be on there. I don't have one.
Okay. Anything else?
Oh, excuse me. I got a cold.
Item number 3, South 30th Street. The city of Heath, Newark, and Granville consolidated and this into one project. ODOT went out to bid for this project earlier in January. 3 bids were received. The low bidder was Kikozi. Unfortunately, the low bidder was probably $25,000, $26,000 over ODOT's estimate. Which is kind of surprising, because normally this time of year when you go out to bid, you get the lower prices because the contractors want to fill out their schedule. And then as the year goes by, and they just add to their schedule just as icing on the cake type of stuff, so they bid higher. But this year, the bids were above the ODOT estimate. And
Something about the way the Newark engineer wrote it up.
that was terrible. But anyway, that
Vacation I budgeted in there, I didn't think you would get it for that.
I heard it had something to do with losses in Columbus. but anyway, I'm sorry.
No,
Okay. Anyway, that requires us, now we approved the match that we supplied to ODOT for $62,000 5 or 6 weeks ago.
And then reapproved it again, remember?
Yeah, accidentally
With
reapproved
that
it.
resolution.
So anyway, we're going to have to appropriate a small additional amount of money, roughly $2,252, because our match has increased too. And of the 3 communities, Granville, Newark, and Heath, ours is probably the smallest increase. So I have a legislative request here that I would like to process, requesting appropriation of $2,252 as our secondary match to this project.
Okay, John.
Thank you. Also on this project.
So are Granville and Newark going through the same exercise then today?
Today or within the next week or 2, yes,
Okay.
depending on how their councils follow it. But we're just getting to jump on it now. We haven't actually gotten the invoice from ODOT, but whenever we get an invoice from ODOT, we need to be paid the next day. So I'm trying to get a jump on that so that we're clear on it. So that is the exact amount.
the 25, 26,000 over the estimate, that was for the whole project or just for Heath's portion?
The whole project.
Okay.
It was like 2%.
Yeah, I was gonna say that would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So really, our estimate was good. And what surprises me, as I said, probably you too, Tim, is that for the first visit of the year, I thought that would have been lower.
I haven't looked at it yet. I'll look tomorrow.
You know, from what I saw, and this may be part of the reason behind it, from what I saw, there were only 3 companies that put a bid in. I don't know if there's just fewer asphalt, what's that?
Shelley, Cocosing, and
Cosing, Shelley, and Columbus Asphalt?
Yeah.
Yeah, they always been on.
You know, weren't there more asphalt companies than that than there used to be?
This is most of all asphalt, so there's a handful more, but not really.
Is that right?
Yeah. If you were doing other projects with it, you know, like
Yeah.
more construction, like putting in sewer line, water line, you know, storm
Yeah.
sewer or something like that, then you could get other companies, because then
They would just sub
they
that
would put
out.
the sub would be either Cocosing or Shelley or something like that.
Yeah.
But when the project's almost all asphalt, other than a few, you know, well, the striping won't be them, that'll be a sub, and you know, stuff like that. So the loops will be a sub.
Yeah, all the small 88 ramps and stuff, really small.
Yeah, that's real small. That'd be could be a sub, or Cocosing could do it themselves, because they've done it before. So yeah.
Ken, what, that person come in with the cameras tonight, or is it like next later?
Well, it's supposed to be next Monday night.
Oh,
After it's like
Safety.
6:30 after safety. Everything.
Are you talking about the intersection at Andover?
Yeah.
I mean, it's.
Well, this
We're
guy
talking
just had
about
a
that
camera.
eye in the sky
It's kinda-
camera on
it's-
that intersection.
I just want to see the guy. The guy wanted to come, so I said, "Well, let him come here." I just want to kind of see what it is, but it has to do with a camera that will see a whole intersection,
Oh,
that kind of a thing.
You know, like how we have those traffic control cameras now? This is one, this is one camera
that does
that looks up, yeah, and they can detect where people are waiting at the lights.
He just contacted me at work one day and wanted to. He'd heard we were talking about it at one of the meetings and wanted to you know, show it and everything. And I thought, I'm curious to see what it do. So I said, well, come make a demo if we. I mean, if you want to stay for it, stay for it. If you don't, you don't. I mean, you know, I'm not planning on acting on it or anything like that. I'm just, you know, just want to hear what he has to say.
Doug, you know how, like on 79 there now, where the project was, we have those cameras up on the mast arms, and instead of the loops in the streets, those cameras detect when cars are waiting for the light. This would be one camera. It kind of uses like a fisheye lens, and then it sees the whole intersection, and then it operates the traffic signals just that one camera. Yeah.
That intersection there, Andover Road, not Andover, but Putnam Road, the new one we cut down to Crescent Drive there, that's totally camera controlled.
Yeah.
I thought it was. I was going to ask you that other day, I forgot that.
A couple other things on this project. ODOT needed to know today if the city would appropriate the additional $2,200 and some dollars. So I hope you don't mind this. I felt it was kind of a shoe-in, so I told them we would do it. So I just wanted to let you know I'd already talked to ODOT about that.
All in favor of having John pay for that?
I pay for all this stuff around here. And one other thing, hopefully this will make up for it. I know you have been discussing the possibility of putting controlled left turn lanes in at Cynthia, or Clear and Drive and everything. So what I did is I ordered our engineer to do a slight change of plans to include installing loop detectors underneath the turn lanes, north and southbound on 30th Street. And they'll put the wiring into the cabinets as part of this project, since they have to put new loop detectors in there anyway. So putting one in each turn lane, north and southbound, is virtually a very minimal cost. So they'll go ahead and do that. And should you decide sometime in the future to authorize a change of the signals, the wiring's in the ground for it. Okay, if you don't, cost us virtually nothing. So I went ahead and did that on my own just because I knew you were talking about it. So anyway, any other questions on South 30th Street? I don't have a time frame for the project actually starting. I'm guessing it will probably be in the spring, but I'm not sure when. The asphalt plant's going to open until April probably. So this will probably be one of the first paving jobs of the year, but I don't think it will start until end of April, May.
School won't be out yet?
It's possible they may delay till school.
I don't know when the railroad's ever gonna do the tracks. That's
Well,
kind of hung up for
Yeah,
some reason.
was that gonna be part of this project too?
They were supposed to have done it, already been done, but then they wanted to do it in conjunction with it, and then, so I don't know what,
Okay.
I mean, the railroad was gonna do it, and it was a slam dunk, and then all of a sudden they started backpedaling, well, no, someone else has to do this, and someone else has to pay for this, and someone else has to pay for that, and I don't know what, I mean, it just,
Someone else being Newark?
yeah.
All
Because
I
they're taking
can-
out that one set of tracks, we
Uh-huh.
put in the quantities to put the asphalt in to fill up that void where the tracks was. And then we did the sidewalks to get through that void area and everything. And then it was, they gotta move, they're gonna put new gates in. Well, since the one track is moved, or there's only one track, you have to move the one gate. Well, then they wanted to do 2 new gates anyway. So then all of a sudden it was like, well, since you're moving the track or something, then you gotta pay for that. And it's like, well, no, you're gonna redo the track. You know what I mean? It's like, which came first, the
Yeah.
chicken or the egg? You know?
Yeah.
And I haven't been involved in the issue at all, but I just know that it was like, at first it was like, yeah, they're gonna do it. And then all of a sudden now they're not as,
Let's get
So I don't know.
clarification on that, and, because really, I would like to be able to keep, schools in the loop on this. I mean, you're talking about right in front of Garfield, that's the way you go to Stevenson, so.
We always do. We always, once we had the pre-construction meeting, they define when they're going to do it, we immediately go to the schools, and that usually, the pre-construction will give us plenty of time to get to schools.
Well, I'm thinking, what Tim's saying though is that this issue is gonna have to be resolved before they start this, so.
no, and they can do the road without going the tracks.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were saying the tracks had to be done
Well,
first.
that would be the ideal thing, because
Yeah.
otherwise you're gonna have a patch.
Yeah,
If they, if you go the road up to the existing tracks,
Yeah.
then they take the tracks out, now you've got a
yeah.
void between the tracks and the new surface. So ideally, yes, it would all be done, But as far as being around the schools, I mean, they'll mill and fill back in, and the schools, I don't think they gotta maintain traffic at all times and stuff, so it's not like they're gonna shut the road down right there. The only road would be shut down is when they do the tracks,
Okay.
and they'll shut it down so you can't cross over. Obviously, if there's no tracks and no crossing there, I mean, it's kinda hard to cross it, so
Yeah.
That shouldn't affect our.
anything, but.
And the other thing is that since I needed, do you want to go with the extra money today? I'm guessing they asked Newark and Granville the same thing. That means they want to let the contract almost immediately. So that'll probably be let in the next couple of days, in which case it doesn't really, they're not even considering the crossing as part of this project. So, anyway, that's an update on South 30th Street. And, so, item number 4, our demolition program, the Moving Ohio Forward program. You're all aware they demolished the Price family house over there by the theaters on Hebron Road. And last week they also demolished the old lawn ornament place on South Second Street. They almost demolished Keith's house by mistake. He wasn't there. But that is now gone, and what we're doing is we're making arrangements to attempt to demolish the house right next door to us, the old White House. There used to be a watchmaker's office, and they rented it out as a, because it's been used the last several years as a residence, it qualifies under the program for demolition. And the owner is more in favor, he's greatly in favor of having it demolished. So we're working on that too. It could be a couple of months, but we're looking to see that demolished as well. Also, you had asked me, there's one old house on Looking View Drive, close to the intersection of Hopewell Drive. I again sent a letter to the property owner advising them that by the end of March, I'll be sending them violations. I usually wait until they have weather to correct them, and that he still has the opportunity to utilize this grant if he wants to. If not, he's going to have to get the house fixed. So I went ahead and did that too. And all of this money is reimbursable that we've spent so far. We've probably spent about $35,000. It's all reimbursable, so it's 100%. Item number 5, Tim, I think you mentioned it, someone else mentioned it. The Advanced Auto Parts at the corner of Colonial Drive and 79 has been using the right-of-way for several months on Colonial Drive to park their vehicles. This is not a violation of any city ordinance. there's no ordinance that says you can't do that. And if you go into a lot of residential subdivisions, you'll see that occurring. So we can't select an individual business and say they can't do it. However, I did contact them and advise them that if they intended to do that, they're going to have to make some improvements. They're going to have to put some gravel down, stone, and stuff like that, keep it neat and mud-free. And they said as soon as the weather gets better, they will do that. I will write them a letter reminding them, just so you're aware of that. So, but we can't prohibit them from doing that. We prohibit everyone from doing it.
We had somebody come before a planning commission meeting on, what was that, last Thursday? Or
Yes.
week? Last Thursday. And said the same thing, mentioned that.
I was looking through anything I could find, even Newark or Heath, to try to find I would call it a loophole for a better word, but a way to work around it and stuff. And I noticed one difference between Newark and Heath Newark was 4 cars and Heath was 5 cars on like a parking, if you have parking, paving park, being paved and all that kind of stuff. And I was trying to figure out how many cars or trucks usually park there. I couldn't remember if it's 4 or 5 or what or anything, but then the other thing was parking on the tree lawn or lawn area. There's a little stipulation of that and anything, but it's hard to enforce that because when people have like a party at their house or a yard sale or whatever, people pull off and park in the grass to get, so essentially you can't hardly do that unless it's, to me it's a business. It's different house, like if someone wants to, like if Brian here wants to park in his yard at his house to do something, that's perfectly fine. But when a business has a business, they should have either a paved hard surface or something for their parking, especially for their employees and stuff, as opposed to pulling up the mud. The big thing is just the mud,
Well, I
It's
asked
just,
them,
you know.
why are you having your employees park there?
Yeah.
And they said, well, the reason we're doing that is because if the employees park in a parking lot, it makes it seem full all the time. And customers don't want to stop by because they don't think they can get a parking place. So, I mean, that's actually a legitimate reason.
Well, if they park in front, but if they park off to the far corner and stuff, I mean,
And they do have the appropriate number of parking spaces. We went back through our ordinances and the planning commission to check all that.
Yeah.
And the other thing is and we warned them, technically that one sliver of land where they're parking the cars is part of I guess it's the colonial subdivision.
Right.
And if you go through the deed covenants of the colonial subdivision, it says that land can only be used for residential purposes, which is why they don't have an access point of the colonial drive. And I pointed it out to him. And I said, should anyone ever bring that up to you, they could take you to court on it. And I said, we don't enforce subdivision requirements, so we won't do that. But a property owner in the subdivision, in theory, could say, hey, there's this here, you can go to court on it. Now, what would happen? Would they win or lose? I don't know. But I just brought that up to him as well. So the manager was really nice about it and said he understood that they would try to get that down as soon as possible. Any other questions on that?
No.
Item number 6, the State Route 79 Dana program. All the credit for this needs to go to the mayor. He really had an ingenious idea. And we had these banner support poles in the median now, and we did have some banners up for Christmas. But they're available for all the seasons and for any special purpose the city has. The problem is those banners cost as much as $100 each. So the mayor thought, why don't we send out a letter to the local businesses and solicit donations from them, where they buy a banner and put it on there. And we've gone ahead and started that. I think Jen has already sent out some letters and put it on the website. And this might be a way to have that bannerized, or whatever you want to call it, through donations. So it may take a little while to develop the plan, but it was a great idea, so we went ahead and do it. I have to say that because it's my boss. But it is a very good idea.
What we did first was to give first crack, I guess, to those businesses that are located right in the area of where the median is. It made sense that since those poles are closest to their businesses, that they ought to have first chance to purchase a spring banner, a summer banner, whatever. And the idea being is that there would be a general design to it, and then like at the bottom or something, they would have their business name. I've seen that in some other communities that I've been through. So, those letters had gone out, and we'll see what kind of feedback we get from them, and then we'll open that up to all the other businesses, Heath too, for an opportunity on that. But I felt that we should give first crack to those businesses.
You said the banners cost about $100.
Roughly, if you buy them from a banner place, yeah.
And how much are you charging to, just enough to cover the banner?
What we did is we put in $120.
Just to make sure you have the cost.
Right. We've been working with Dwayne and Becky, Dr. Sign, to develop specifications for the banners and stuff like that, designs and everything.
Yep. The banners, so I'm assuming since they're seasonal, they don't last just one season. They can last more than a season.
Oh, yeah, they're very durable.
Yeah, like the holiday ones that we have, we have them, and we'll put them up again next year.
And when I was chairman at Hoback Park, one of the things we did is when we sold a sponsorship or signs or something along those lines, the first year, if you didn't have a sign, I guess, if you didn't have an existing sign, it was this much. Then the following year, it was less because we reused your same sign. So, I don't know if that's what you're going to look at, but that's always a nice way to get repeat,
What we did is we said the signs would all be valid for 90 days. So, I mean, then we can go through next year, and if you want your sign back up, we can do a reduce, something like that.
Yeah, like a reduced rate for it.
Yeah.
And then at that point, you would actually be making a little profit. I know you're not doing this to make a profit, but it's just to cover the expense.
Exactly. That's all we want to do is cover the expenses.
Yeah.
And when the banner has reached a point where, through weathering, it's really not suitable for putting back up, then we'll just give it to the business.
And if they want to do it again the following year or another time, then it's the full rate.
The full rate, right. Yeah, we want to make it equitable because our goal is just to get the banners up so it looks nice. So,
Now, if the storm comes through like last year and tears half a dozen banners down, are we liable to replace them?
I don't know if liable is the correct word. I think what will happen is over time, we'll have a little kitty that this money goes into that we would use to replace them. But in the first 4 or 5 years of the program, if that happens, I would think it would be an out-of-pocket expense of the city. That occurs. I think we'll have sufficient money for this year. But you got to take time to do it. That's a good question. Any other questions? Item number 7, the Star Spangled Celebration. Thanks to the advertisements and the articles we got from the Advocate and Heath News, even Channel 10 on TV, some of the radio stations. The first meeting that we had a few weeks ago was well attended. We've got at least 20 people on the committee. I'd like to thank Deb, the mayor, Jeff, Becky, and Dwayne for joining the committee and helping us. We have a very strong committee this year. It's been reborn, basically. And I and the older committee members are very happy to see that. And we've begun the process of scheduling the event. The 2 hurdles that we had, one is getting membership, the other is getting funding. We're now attacking the funding portion of it. So I think we are in line to have a very good event this year. So, and almost everyone in this room has participated in one form or another in previous events, so hopefully we'll have just about everyone back. So it looks good for this year. And finally, number 8, I'd like to ask if we could go into executive session, discuss a legal. Yes.
I'm sorry, did you have a question too? Because I do before you go into executive session.
We'll have a question after you say your.
Yours is probably more important. Go
No,
ahead.
yours is. No.
I'll put
I was just gonna say, before we go to executive session, can we have like an other item and do others before we do that?
Yeah.
I was going to suggest that we just wait until the end of finance because there's an executive session request there as well. So
Oh, okay.
All right.
if you just want to hang around for a few minutes.
So then we can go into other.
All right, so do your other question.
Yeah, well, Mayor, you talked about, the Star Spangled Celebration, the cost, the burden it has on the city. And I know that part of your committee, you guys go out and raise money. This is really easy for me to say since I didn't show up for your meeting and I'm not on the committee, so I'm not maybe suggesting, I don't know, maybe you do. You talked about we sell, not sell signs, but for these banners on 79, business sponsor. I know, I don't know, I mean, the business just donate money to the celebration and residents donate money for the celebration. is there a way to raise money through, signage and stuff like that too? Just a thought.
There is.
We've talked about ways of
I was at the meeting, I didn't know that.
more, we've talked about other ways of showing, of recognizing event sponsors, I guess, is there were some ideas.
I didn't know if it would generate more revenue for them.
It would.
It very well
It would.
could.
I'm just curious.
The dilemma we have is a catch-22. You need to have funding to do signage. So,
That's true.
so it's a, but yeah, that's one of the things we discussed, Brian. Yes, sir.
My other was people have asked me, and I haven't seen it, so I'm not exactly sure where, but going out 79 here, right before the last road, before you get to like the Kaiser Road, some trees or something are cleared or something like that. Is something going in there, Bill, or are they just clearing trees?
It's confidential, so you have to be quiet. We're getting a Hooters and a Bill bookstore.
Why is that? Hooters is going into Garfield. Hooters is going into Garfield.
Oh,
Wait a minute, that's all I can't.
I just wanted to advocate for, actually.
Ken had 8 down on the
Personnel manager.
Well, I like that answer better than the honest answer. So I'll tell you the truth. Right now, no one who owns the property has talked to us, but the property, if you remember Schmelter Chevrolet several years ago, John Smelter was the owner, retired, and he's taken care of the property for years, and he's tried to sell it on and off for years, and every now and then he would hire an architect or a planner to come in and, can you lay this out, lay that out? Well, I guess eventually he's permanently retired, and his son has apparently taken over management of his assets, I'm guessing. And they're just clearing the land, probably to make it more marketable to sell. That's all I can guess. I haven't talked to anyone in the family, but maybe that's what makes the most sense.
I figured something like that, but it's just, people ask you all the time, hey, what's going on there? Like, I know everything. And it's just,
But if you tell them it's a good, they won't believe you anymore. But someone of credibility like that. I do
I went up to the mall this afternoon to get some information, or to get something to order there. And walked in, the first thing this lady said, do you know the old Charlie's coming into Garfield? I said, no. So
Really?
Oh, they can have room right there.
I like those Charlies.
I like
I'd
those
rather
too,
have
but I just heard that.
Chili's. I'd rather have Chili's.
But I had another question that comes from, they kind of blew me off. This lady, she wants to know if she can have a chicken in the city.
No.
I didn't think so.
Chicken is not a domestic
We bought one
animal.
at Cruise the other day. Oh, it's dead there.
She's been reading these magazines, where a lot of these cities, big cities, have been allowed to have more rooftops.
Chicken, some people, their children, they want them to raise them for forage or something, turkeys or geese or ducks. And the answer is no. Anything that's not a dog or a cat or anything that they're domestic. And anything else is a farm animal.
Is it a property zoning issue then? Like if it was zoned agricultural
Well,
in the
then,
city,
yeah.
then you'd be okay.
Yeah, but I'm assuming it's not yet.
It's something.
Yeah.
What if she has a collar on it?
She said, I don't want a rooster, I just want a hen. I said, well, I don't think it makes any difference.
That must be your neighbor.
There's a gentleman over on, I think it was on Lucky or something that has a little miniature pig, I don't know what you call him.
Potbelly pig?
Maybe it's Potbelly pig, he had to go before the Board of Zoning and Building Appeals to get a variance for it. A guard pig or something like that. Squeal.
We had somebody to get a variance for goats, didn't
Yeah, that's it, it was a goat, not a pig, it was a goat, you're right, I'm sorry.
Is that on Franklin?
Franklin is partially agricultural,
Okay.
partially residential, depending.
They used to have some,
That's our,
there's big colorful birds in the city too.
Oh,
Peacocks?
Peacocks.
Yeah.
Some of those.
Really?
Chet Dollar was big on peacock.
He had one Clarence for a while, but he doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's what I heard. Anything else?
Anything else from John?
That's your-
Well, we'll postpone our executive session till end of finance.
Your finance, yes. Mr. Crinkle's ready.
Everybody else is, let's do it. Everything else is going to the birds.
Oh, gee.
There's more coming back out.
You have any more down there, or is that all you got, Jeff?
That's all I've got.
You want to make some real quick?
You're out of luck.
You need to get mine if you want
I
to
would
make
share
a
one
dozen.
back here.
Wait, I got one. I
Always make a dozen, it seems to come out about right. It was almost a waste of paper anyway.
This is a big one. Legislative request, and we'll call the finance committee meeting order at 6:07. The one legislative request is the one we just covered at Mr. Groff's meeting here. $2,252 for capital improvements for the South 30th Street paving project match.
Oh, that came out of the John Groff fund. Since he said he'd pay for it.
As soon as I get my taxes.
Oh, okay.
We haven't designated a fund necessarily for this yet, so it's, it says capital improvements.
Capital improvements.
Yeah.
All right.
Comments? Everybody okay with that? Any other items other than executive session? Yes.
Make a motion to go into executive session.
Second.
Can I ask you, before you finish that, just so we be on the open, are both these executives, one's for the legal settlement, it says legal settlement and others for utility, we need to go in and out two
Yeah.
times to do.
Yeah, technically, we need to go in,
For
come
one of
out,
them.
go in, come out.
So are we going in for the finance one first, and then go in for the?
You want to do
executive
John's first?
Yeah, let's do John's first, and if he wants to go, he can go, so we'll go into executive session.
So do you
for
need to
legal
defeat the
settlement.
motion that's on the floor right now?
I didn't put the specifics on.
He didn't put.
Oh,
He just said go
yeah,
into executive session.
All right.
I just